Hello and welcome to Go Beyond and Andiamo Oltre I'm Cass Thomas, and we have the lovely Lauren Pauly as our guest today, and I'm really excited to see her because not only do I like to hear her, but she's also gorgeous.
It's nice to see your face and hear your voice. The whole package is wonderful, yes?
Ciao a tutti, Go Beyond e andiamo oltre. Siamo qui oggi con la meravigliosa Lauren Polly, che non sono solo contenta di vedere ma anche di sentire. E eccoci qua, ciao Lauren. Lauren ha detto sì, è bellissimo vedere il tuo viso e anche ascoltare la tua voce, tutto il pacchetto è fantastico. Yeah.
And also, last time we spoke, Lauren, I was on your radio show. Thank you for that. And I was in a really noisy environment in Rome.
Yes.
And now I'm in a lovely, quiet home.
It feels very different, doesn't it?
L'ultima volta Cass diceva sono stata ospite del tuo radio show ed ero in un ambiente molto rumoroso a Roma, adesso sono in una casa molto tranquilla e Lauren diceva sì, è molto diverso, non è vero?
We were talking about communication, and your names come up to me quite a bit from people because of your expertise, I guess we would say, in communication. And it's a time where communication is so needed. So I'm really excited to delve into creating a greater understanding of what communication is and what it's not, if there is something that it's not.
Yeah. Wow. And I think that's a really great place to kick it off.
Quindi Cass raccontava come il nome di Lauren le fosse venuto su da diverse persone proprio a riguardo della comunicazione e della sua expertise in comunicazione, ed è un momento nel quale è veramente necessario avere una comprensione di quello che la comprensione della comunicazione è o non è, e vedere che cosa c'è qui intorno.
And also, if there is something that communication is not, I mean, yeah.
And for me, it's looking at a broader scope. So it's not so much that it's not one thing, but what if it's so much more than what we've ever really acknowledged and really given ourselves permission to play and explore with.
E vedere anche, dice Cassa, che cosa non è la comunicazione, e allora notava come la comunicazione, come le piacerebbe guardare attraverso uno stroboscopio, mi verrebbe in italiano, e vedere che cos'altro è la comunicazione. È come se non dovessimo definirla, ma veramente aggiungere di che cos'altro è che non abbiamo ancora riconosciuto che è la comunicazione, di cos'altro si tratta.
Yeah, cool. I'm not used to pausing for the interpretation, so just stop me if I go too fast.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, and for me, I have a background in speech language pathology, so I've worked with people with strokes and brain injuries, really rehabilitating their ability to communicate after an injury. And it's fascinating. They always want to just fix the verbal speech. And it wasn't till I worked with so many patients who didn't have that capability that I started to really look at what was beyond what we identify as communication, which usually is just the verbal volleyball that we play back and forth.
Mm-hmm. So, sì, diceva Lorenio, ho un background, ho degli studi in riabilitazione di logopedia, quindi riabilitazione verbale, ed è affascinante per me quanto le persone colleghino la comunicazione a quello che è solo il verbale, e in realtà che cos'altro c'è, che cosa c'è oltre a questa comunicazione, e si tratta molto spesso, si vede come una specie di pallavolo verbale nel quale ci si palleggia questa parola, e che in realtà c'è molto altro sotto e intorno.
Yeah. So really looking at kind of what's at play beyond just what you're verbalizing, but what's your body saying, and first and foremost, what's your energy saying? And when you're not saying anything, what's your energy saying? And I think that's the really cool thing to look at, is what's going on in the space between the words, between the vocalizations, the verbalizations, and what's really gifted, received, and playing constantly with each other as we interact and engage.
E sì, oltre al verbalizzare c'è questa energia prima di iniziare a parlare che viene su, e perfino quando stai zitta viene su di questa energia, di che cos'è che stai dicendo, e gli interessa moltissimo lo spazio fra le parole, fra la vocalizzazione e la verbalizzazione, e vedere come è possibile giocare intorno a questo.
So I love that you said that about the body language, about the energy that you're communicating, because you know a lot of we both are certified facilitators for Access Consciousness, and so is Chiara, new one, and we work a lot with energy and the energy of words, and one of the things I love about that is recognizing how often you've been confused by communication because it just wasn't congruent or with what you were receiving non-verbally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing. And the other thing is, since you're working with people on assisting them with regaining their communication, it's actually showing a new way to communicate, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cass dice interessante, mi è piaciuto molto quello che dicevi riguardo al linguaggio del corpo e dell'energia. Entrambe Cass e Lorraine sono due facilitatrici certificate, e anch'io nuova, e lavoriamo molto con questa energia e con l'energia delle parole. Innanzitutto è interessante riconoscere quante volte siamo stati confusi a riguardo della comunicazione, ed era congruente quello che ricevevamo energeticamente da ciò che veniva detto verbalmente. E in secondo luogo mi interessa la tua esperienza riguardo assistere le persone nel riappropriarsi di questa capacità.
Yeah. I just think a lot of us have been confused in communication. I mean, even without a brain injury or a stroke or something really dramatic like that. I mean, if you can look back, how many times did you think that you were dumb? You weren't getting it, you weren't taken advantage of, all these little ways that we don't look at really what is. We look at what's put on the surface, and we're taught that. You know, whatever is said is what's supposed to be true or what we're supposed to pay attention to. But if you've had the awareness of the energy, of reading people's thoughts, of being able to really see almost behind the veil or the veneer that people use, then you probably felt a little wonky, because they're often two very, very different things, if not many different things.
Yeah. I just am blown away. I'm in Phoenix at the moment. I just finished a 3-day body class, and a small, potent class with maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 facilitators in it. So it was such a gift to work with people who read the energy.
Lorraine racconta come anche lei, pur non avendo avuto un ictus o un problema a livello cerebrale, molto spesso si ritrova confusa dalla comunicazione, e molte volte ha pensato di essere scema, oppure che le persone si erano avvantaggiate di lei. È interessante come quando si inizia a leggere l'energia si diventa consapevoli e si vede oltre al velo e oltre alla linearità, e si percepiscono nelle persone delle cose molto diverse. E Cassie in questo momento raccontava di come in questo grande spazio blown away, quindi non saprei neanche
Sbalordito, no?
It sounds gorgeous in Italian.
Lei è appena terminato questa classe sul corpo a Phoenix, e raccontava che era con 5 facilitatrici e riconosce quale dono è lavorare con persone che sono davvero leggono l'energia.
Yeah. Because what happens at that point is that the communication starts off ahead already. Yeah. And so where you can actually go, and I really dare to say what you can actually receive.
Yeah. For me,
And,
there's such an ease. There's such an ease that's there when people are in the energy, communicating with it, and really aware of what they're creating and how they're interacting with themselves, but then also all the energies that are at play in our space around us. And with that ease, that almost relaxed way of being, there's more space to breathe. And that receptive, softer energy really becomes more accessible.
Well,
sorry, I'm like doubling up now.
Adesso racconta di come quella comunicazione decolla prima e dove puoi andare, che cosa puoi ricevere quando si è consapevoli di questo livello energetico. E Lorraine racconta di quanta facilità ci sia quando si instaura questa conversazione e quando c'è questa consapevolezza nelle persone e come altro si può creare, ed è come se ci fosse quasi più spazio per respirare in questa dimensione. I might have lost a little bit, sorry.
No. That's actually that you got the clue part of it. So, what other beyond words? How can we invite people to a greater space of receiving with communication? I think that's the Samsung. They're making a nice smoothie. Can you silence them?
You're unmuted. Okay, there we go.
Unmuted. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. I'm sorry, can I just translate Cass' question? Because I feel it's going to be... Cass raccontava di cos'altro, oltre alle parole, come altro possiamo invitare le persone a ricevere di più.
Yeah, that's such a massive question, and I would just invite people to touch into the space that opens up after.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you could just maybe allow your body to like get super, super relaxed. And actually feel your feet. We'll do Dr. Dane here's trick. Feel your feet on the ground more. And actually allow yourself to be super present and also super relaxed. You can close your eyes. Yeah. And I'd like you just to like get a sense of your own energy, the space that you be. And then start to become aware of the space around you. And energetically, spaciously, consciously, what are you doing with the energies around you? What's being gifted? What's being received? And what's really being created every moment with you, your body, all the beings around you, all the energies around you. Yeah. And then from this space, then we pair our words, our body language, our voice on top of it. And utilizing all layers that are really available to us to create would be possible. Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
Also, from the space. Oh, right.
Sorry, I just went.
It's a riassunto because poi era.
Lorraine dice sì, è un argomento veramente gigante e mi piacerebbe innanzitutto che si accedesse allo spazio che si apre oltre alle parole, quindi vi chiederei di permettere al vostro corpo di rilassarsi, di sentirsi le piante dei piedi e permettersi di essere super presenti e anche super rilassati. Ha invitato a chiudere gli occhi e percepire la tua energia, lo spazio che tu sei e iniziare a diventare consapevole di tutto lo spazio intorno, e sia energeticamente che spazialmente che consapevolmente essere presenti. e chiedere cosa stai facendo con l'energia che c'è intorno a te, che cosa stai creando con tutte le energie che ci sono intorno. E a quel punto abbinare il nostro linguaggio corporeo, le nostre parole, la nostra voce e sommarle a questo e riconoscere tutte le energie che abbiamo a disposizione, alle quali possiamo accedere.
I love that you ask, what are we creating in every moment with the people and the energies around us? Because we don't remember, own, and claim that we are really participating, right?
Yeah.
Participatory, that's the word.
That's the word.
Participatory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cass dice, adoro quello che hai sottolineato di che cosa stiamo creando in ogni momento con l'energia intorno a noi, perché molto spesso non riconosciamo di quanto siamo partecipi e quanto stiamo partecipando a questo scambio, a questa connessione.
Yeah,
I've been really looking at lately too for myself of like where I am, like touching into that space of how I'm already engaging with what's around me, and then really making the demand for myself to be the change, the alchemy, or the one molecule that actually starts to shift the environment. It's like if you walk into that room and you start to feel kind of like shut down or weird, you're just aware of a lot of different energies. What can you be to actually create ease and space, not just for yourself, but allow that to permeate out to really make a difference in your environment, the people around you, and the bodies around you as well.
Right.
Lorraine dice come lo sto notando molto per me stessa, anche vedere quando accedo a questo spazio dove sto impegnandomi con tutte le energie intorno a me e richiedendo di essere quella molecola che cambia le cose intorno a sé, e di come quando chiedo che cosa posso cambiare, le energie sento che cambiano, sento che i corpi si rilassano e che le cose iniziano a girare.
Certainly. You know, I've got to tell you that the communication that we receive when we're in that space, there's so much more possible. And we often deny it or don't heed it. And we can still have a wonderful life without it. And with it, we can create connections beyond this reality.
Yeah.
E Cass ricorda come la comunicazione che riceviamo da quello spazio, la comunicazione che riceviamo quando siamo in quello spazio, e che c'è molto altro possibile, e spesso lo neghiamo oppure lo nascondiamo. Lo nascondiamo, e comunque possiamo avere una vita meravigliosa, ma che cosa davvero creiamo quando le connessioni che creiamo da quello spazio?
It's funny, what you just touched on, that space, that's actually the space of communion and of oneness. And it's funny, when I first started facilitating about communication using access tools, and even in the hospital, I was like, oh, I'm a communion specialist, or I'm facilitating about communion, and I mean, wait, communication.
I'm a communion specialist. That's awesome.
But the words kept flipping, and it was funny. Like for me, when I utilized the word communication, there is that space of communion that's actually truly possible, that oneness that we be, and the play and the creation and the, what is that, like the massage that's possible in that space.
Right.
It's funny, the two words play in my universe very similarly. Yeah.
Lorena racconta di come le venga spesso questo gioco di parole fra comunione e comunicazione, e come questa comunicazione, questo spazio del quale parlava Cass, è proprio quello della comunione tutt'uno per lei, e di come spesso in ospedale lei abbia detto sono una specialista della comunione, e poi dice no, della comunicazione, non della comunione, di come queste parole spesso si intercambino, e come davvero abbiano a che fare con il gioco e la creazione, che davvero è possibile oltre. No.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you, what's your take on this, in terms of receiving communication. I talk a lot about light and heavy, and when something resonates with you, when something resonates, I guess, with that space of communion that you're talking about, for you, there is a lightness in that. And how often do we ignore that? And at the same time, being okay with it not being significant and never actually getting it. If there is a reason, or you know what I mean, something you're supposed to do with it. It's really quite interesting.
È interessante, mi piacerebbe sapere il tuo punto di vista riguardo di come ricevere la comunicazione. Io parlo spesso di leggero e pesante, e quindi quando qualcosa risuona di questo spazio della comunione di cui parli, si sente che c'è proprio una leggerezza per te, e anche di come spesso la ignoriamo. E poi ho perso Cass, scusami.
No, perché è abbastanza spazioso il concetto. Se uno percepisce una leggerezza e di andare in quella direzione senza darlo troppo significato, se andando in quella direzione non si rivela qualcosa di chiaro, di comprensibile. No? I mean, so for me, you're a little bit like that with me, Lauren. Your name is light to me, Lauren Paul, when I first heard it, you know? And it created something in my universe, an opening in a space. And that's a couple of years ago. And even though I don't know what that is, and it may not be anything, well, it is something. That's what we're saying. It is something.
Scusami.
Vai, no, vai.
Perfino il tuo nome, Lauren Polly, è leggero per me, lo sento da un paio di anni e davvero apre questo spazio nel mio universo. Non so neanche che cosa significhi, e magari non è neanche necessario che significhi qualcosa, è semplicemente leggero, e questo è lo spazio di cui stavo parlando, del non caricare di un significato.
Yeah. So in the community, what do you know about communication and communion? What can you tell us about that in relation to this? Is that a clear enough question?
Oh, it's delicious. Yeah.
Quindi che cosa sai della comunicazione e della comunione, e che cosa ci puoi raccontare al riguardo, Lauren? E Lauren dice sì, è delizioso.
And I love the way you ask that. It's like, what do you know? And we don't really take the opportunity to really ask each other that. Like, what do you know about this? In a way that's not from school learning, I'm sure, or just reality, but like, what do you actually know about that? And for me, that lightness that you were talking about, that is just such a, if you take it without a significance and you actually receive it and have it as an energy and a space in your world, and one that might educate you about other areas of your life that you may want to change, move towards, move through, to start opening up more into the lightness, more into the space. And I think what goes on a lot with the light and heavy is people kind of think receiving or lightness is like a magic giant shining beam from the sky that, you know, like this massive light show that goes off, which sometimes it is. But just that feather touch, that little thing that goes, ooh, that's different. I don't know what that is. I don't need to know what that is.
Right.
But whatever it is, I like it. I'm just going to keep going with it.
Right.
I think it's more simple than we actually make it. I think it's more of that, like, ooh, pleasure, ooh, light, ooh, enjoyment. Okay, cool. What if life was more of that space? And the true communication and communion that we could have with each other was an enjoyment and an ease of being with us, ourselves, and each other as well.
Con altri no, I'm just, it's amazing.
Go. Right. I'll sing a song while you finish writing if you want.
I am. Cosa sai, adoro, Loren dice che cosa, di chiedere, quando chiedi che cosa sai, perché molto spesso non ci prendiamo lo spazio di chiedercelo più in là di quello che è la scuola, il sistema di che cosa sai. E questa leggerezza senza significato, questo ricevere questa leggerezza e averla per sé come spazio nella propria vita, è veramente questo spazio nel quale anche altre aree si aprono a questa leggerezza, ed è una specie di navicella spaziale che arriva e molto spesso rendiamo le cose più complicate di quello che veramente sono. Ed è semplicemente interessante vedere che cos'è, tipo wow, è figo, wow, è un piacere, è diverso e non ho neanche bisogno di sapere che cos'è. Quello spazio è la vera comunione e la vera comunicazione che possiamo essere e avere con gli altri e con noi stessi.
You know, I like that you say that it doesn't even have to mean anything. I like that, and I'll have more of that in my life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we go so much, especially with communication, because we're supposed to understand each other. And we're supposed to give information, not energy, which, yes, we do gift information that can be utilized. And that's super practical. And that's one way that I play a lot with the practicalities of that. But if you're looking more at actually receiving and having energies with and around each other, that's actually something very different. That's not a cognitive understanding or a holding of it. That's allowing it to come into your space, receive it, have it, and allow it to continue to move and change and grow.
Yeah.
Cass raccontava di questo, non so neanche cosa significa, che ne avrà di più nella sua vita, lo richiede, lo avrà. E Lorraine dice sì, come ricevere e avere l'energia possa non essere da questo spazio cognitivo di capire o neanche di trattenere, ma semplicemente di accedervi e chiedere di averne ancora di più.
It's a lovely breath. Who's my host? In LA.
Hi, bonjour.
You know one of them?
I've met you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hello, honey. Oh, it's good to see your body. I like the video. You actually get like the animated face and the body with it too.
Thank you.
You know what I wanted to say? I got coffee. That's awesome. Thank you. It's a little bit whispers of the future, and perhaps of the past, and it totally energetically allows you to. Not making it significant is to not buy into the lie of time and try and, like you said, possess it. You communicate possessing it, right? What we talk about, possess it and fit it into something. And I have tried to do that before, and it's not even that it doesn't work. It just peters out, which may just be not work. You know what peters out means, Dulce?
No.
It fizzles out like a firecracker, you know, where you light it and it's supposed to go pop and then it just goes.
Okay. I love a little bit. So
let me do it again. You light it and then it goes, instead of pop, it goes.
Si svanisce. Ok, non ho capito tutto quanto, quindi cioè non ho scritto tutto quanto. Cass parlava di come questo sia forse ascoltare i sussurri del futuro e forse anche del passato, e questo di permettersi energeticamente di non rendere le cose significative e di non trattenerle e non bersi la bugia del tempo. E questa disponibilità a non possedere le cose e a trattenerle.
For example, when you meet someone and you get a little sparkle, right? And you're like, wow, that sort of tickles me. That person delights me. And you sort of want, you know, have you met someone like that where you sort of don't want them to go? You know, I had a translator like that in Japan. I was like, I don't want you to go. I want you to just stay with me and hang out, you know? And of course, as someone who travels as much as I do, that's probably not that feasible. But that communication, right, is what we're talking about is not making that significant, delighting in the joy that energy brings you, and knowing that that's something you'd like more of in your life. Not making that significant is not buying the needing to possess, to hold on to, which usually has things fizzle out when you do that. And not buying the lie of time that it has to be now. it may be a remnant from what we call the past, or a whisper of what we call the future.
Wow.
The coffee's good, huh? The coffee's good.
It's kicking in.
Thanks, Beth. The coffee's good, honey.
Cass racconta di come quando incontri qualcuno che è questo spazio, una persona che ti accende una scintilla dalla quale sei deliziata, succede che spesso che non vuoi che vada via. Mi è successo con una traduttrice in Giappone questa sensazione, e spesso non è fattibile che questa cosa rimanga così, ed era davvero una comunicazione, una comunione nella comunicazione, una comunicazione in comunione, e di come possa essere interessante quello di non renderlo significativo e semplicemente deliziarsi dell'energia che c'è, e non versi la necessità che sia necessario possederla o trattenerla, e che molto spesso quando uno invece si aggrappa, si ancora a questa necessità, questa energia si spegne pian piano, sì.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too to watch where we that possession thing, I think, is massively huge, Cass. It's where we want to possess an energy, and you actually can't possess an energy. Energy is ever moving, ever changing. So it's like you're trying to go against the laws of the universe to hold something or to keep it as one thing. And it's fascinating looking at relationships. How often do we do that, where we want to keep someone one way or possess them completely? I went on a date like a week or two ago, and it was funny. I could perceive him trying to possess me, and I could feel myself peter out, which was fascinating. Like, it takes a lot for me to fizzle out, man. And I tell you, it was like this, like, blah, 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 blah. But having that thing and allowing yourself to be in that space where someone's super enjoying you and are like, oh, wow, you're bright and shiny. I really like that. You know, that energy. And notice where they are going into possession a little bit.
Right.
And are you willing to still be there and receive it? For me, it was quite difficult. I wanted to kind of put up a barrier and run away a little. It was to actually be there with it and receive all that energy. It was quite intense, but also a really cool learning tool. We do it both ways. People do it to us and we do it to others. And in true communion, it's just, we just enjoy. And let it go.
È bellissimo come questa cosa racconta Lauren di come questa cosa del possesso vada spesso anche proprio contro le leggi dell'universo, nel senso che l'energia si muove continuamente e cambia continuamente, quindi questa idea di possedere e trattenere vada verso un po' contro le leggi dell'universo. Ed è andata in un appuntamento 1 o 2 settimane fa, e lei ha percepito questa energia di lui che desiderava possederlo, ed è interessante perché quando qualcuno si delizia di te e li vedi tutti brillanti e gioiosi, sei disposta anche a ricevere questa energia di una persona che desidera possederti, e che per lei è stato piuttosto interessante, e che comunque come sarebbe goderci costantemente queste energie, riceverle tutte quante e poi lasciarle andare.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as a facilitator, as also a speaker, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen. That's going to be stimulated. It's, you know, that space of non-judgment, and the space that you create when you speak. You know, people fall in love, I'm sure. So you know, I love the energy flows and the energy pulls of access. What, as you say, what does it take to be you, and not reject that, and still not resist and react to it or succumb to it, right?
Yeah. And for me, it was not buying into it. That was the thing that really kind of freed me, of like, oh, okay, that's just where he's going right now. Cool.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm victim to it, or I have to go along with it, or I'm at the effect of it even. It's just like, okay, that's the energy at hand here. What can we be to create something different, more fun?
Right. Right.
È incredibile, dice Cass, come essendo una facilitatrice e uno speaker, succede molto spesso che dallo spazio di non giudizio dal quale tu parli, le persone si innamorano. Immagino che ti succeda, Lorraine. Mi piacciono moltissimo i flussi energetici e mi chiedo che cosa ci vuole per essere tu, per essere te stesso, ricevere questa energia senza resisterla e andare in reazione. E Lorraine aggiunge sì, senza neanche bersela e senza la necessità di essere una vittima di quella o l'effetto di quella e mettere su le barriere. E anzi, che cosa possiamo creare qui per cambiare tutto questo con totale facilità?
Yeah, for sure. In terms of speech, I mean, speech pathology and also communication specialists, not only teaching people, rehabilitating people's skill with their tongue, with the language, but also teaching them new ways or opening them up to new ways of communicating. Is there something, even Chiara, is there something that you would like to know about communication from Lauren?
Cass chiede a tutti noi e anche a me se c'è qualcosa che desideriamo sapere da Lauren a livello di comunicazione, non solo la comunicazione a livello patologico di cui si è occupata in ospedale, si occupa, ma anche di come lei si occupi di riabilitare con la lingua e aprendo nuovi modi di comunicare. Quindi se c'è qualcosa che ci piacerebbe sapere a riguardo.
So cute, Kara. Yeah. You know, I've got to say that working with Gary Douglas has changed the way I communicate as well. I have not problems with interacting with people and meeting people and talking with people. And there's a verbal communication and there is a written communication as well. And it's been very interesting to I want to say perfect the clarity to, you know, which is not an end point, but continually perfect the clarity with which you communicate things, which doesn't always allow for all of our flavor. However, does promote more clarity, right? More clarity. So I guess that's just energetic, but you know, adding your flavor into it. But I'm wondering if you can speak to that. Being clear, especially in business communication, being clear. Yeah.
Cass chiede, racconta di come lavorare con Gary ha cambiato dinamicamente il suo modo di comunicare a livello verbale, a livello scritto. È interessante come si tratti costantemente di un perfezionare costante la chiarezza con la quale si comunica, che ogni tanto non permette sempre di declinarci in tutti i nostri sapori, in tutti le nostre gusti, i modi in cui noi comunichiamo il nostro modo personale. E mi piacerebbe, Lauren, se hai voglia di parlarci di essere chiari nella comunicazione, specialmente nel business, ad esempio.
Yeah. I have a tendency to, or I had a tendency, it's changing, to give way too much information. Assume that, you know, I like to have the whole picture. So I assume other people would like to have the whole picture.
And they don't.
Well, it confuses them, you know? And, it confuses them, and I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but then it actually, I had to give Gary $1 because people miss your point and they feel like you're hiding something, he said, if you communicate too much information and you're not clear enough.
Oh, yeah, wow. It's like a smoke screen almost, you know?
Yeah.
Cass racconta che lei aveva la tendenza di dare troppa informazione, di voler presentare tutto il quadro alle persone e che per altre persone spesso non funzionava in questo modo, ha dovuto dare $1 a Gary e spesso le persone confonde avere tutta questa informazione e sentono come se si stesse nascondendo qualcosa.
Yeah. What I look at is like what's, what we practice at the beginning of the show, what's going on already in the space energetically, and then what words actually need to be spoken. Nice. And what words need to be spoken and what can actually be received. And I think sometimes I go, well, what can be heard? And that doesn't seem to create as much for me. When I look at actually like what can be received by the other person or what do they need to actually hear from me to receive whatever it is that I'm gifting or I desire them to do.
Write that down, Karen. Write that one down. 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. Let's communicate that one. That's a very interesting distinction. I don't want
and if you desire to repeat it, you're so free to do so.
Yeah. What do I need to say? What needs to be spoken so that they can hear what it is that I need them to receive?
Yeah.
Because hearing and receiving
that will allow them to hear, hear what I need them to receive, or receive what I'd like them to receive. Yeah.
Yeah. So in order to really create here, like hearing is one thing, but actually receiving the information may not be exactly what you say. You may say one thing, that would be the hearing component, right? They're hearing what you're saying. If they can actually receive the information from whatever may be communicated with the space or what might open with that one thing. Like what if you ask someone a question to work on your business? They hear your question, and that question then catalyzes them into action where they then receive the information that you didn't even know you were looking for. But that's the missing piece there. Like for me, I love information. It's just something that I love to play with. Like I'm just very curious by nature. And so a lot of it, I didn't even realize I was doing it for a while, but asking the questions or kind of communicating with people and having them go out, more information started to show. And it wasn't a defined way of looking at the information that showed, but it's like, how can I utilize this to create? But when you're looking at actually communicating with the person, okay, cool, I have a sense of the information or I have a piece of information that I need. What is it that I need to speak to this one individual or this group so that they can get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, not only hear it, but get it and receive it. Yeah. Okay.
Doreen parlava proprio di come si tratti non solo di un discorso uditivo, quindi di sentire, ma anche di ricevere e creare da quello spazio. Quando inizia una comunicazione, in primo luogo, Doreen si chiede che cosa sta succedendo energeticamente, quali parole hanno bisogno di essere messe su questo spazio energetico, e anche che cosa possono ricevere le persone e cosa posso dire io che permetta a loro di ricevere quello che dico. Ricevere informazione potrebbe non essere semplicemente uno spazio uditivo, ma anche uno spazio energetico, un altro tipo di spazio. E nel business, ad esempio, dice Lorena, mi piace molto ascoltare, mi piace molto ricevere informazione e facendo le domande alle persone io ottengo più informazione e chiedo che come posso usare questa per creare. Quando ho una percezione, un pezzo di informazione, mi chiedo che cosa posso dire qui per accedere a questo. Sorry, I lost it. The last point.
Il pezzo di informazione che porterà avanti la situazione. No, bravissima. Very good, Chiara. Riassunto, yeah.
I think one other point to make is like looking at, in speech pathology world, we call it code switching, which I think is kind of a smaller thing than I think most of us do naturally, which is we change our vernacular, our speaking rate, our energy based on who we're talking to and our circumstance. So if you can think of like the way you talk to your family isn't the way you talk in business or to your buddies. like you change constantly. There's a lot of layers to that, and I invite you to start to explore how those little subtleties of shifting actually create more in certain environments. But I watch myself at the hospital where I communicate with like maybe 20 different doctors a day, maybe about 50 different nurses a day, other professionals, families, patients. Every single moment, what's coming out of my mouth, the energy, words, the flippant speech that I need for the doctors who give me like 2 seconds of their time to get my point across. It's a constant changing. And if you're willing to be in that space and really ride that edge, be super present and ride that edge, you'll find yourself just kind of going with your gut and really trusting. Open your mouth, speak. I think so much of what we do is shoot ourselves in the foot because we go into our head of, how could I do this? Or what about this thing? Or what about this thing over here? There comes a point where you plant your feet down, you show up, and you open your mouth.
È incredibile. Lorraine parla di come costantemente stiamo cambiando la nostra energia, il modo di parlare a seconda della persona con la quale interagiamo, della situazione, e le interessa molto studiare come queste sottigliezze cambiano e la nostra abilità di cambiare e di creare di più. Ad esempio in ospedale lei parla a livello giornaliero con circa 20 dottori e magari quando un dottore le dà 2 secondi del suo tempo per passare l'informazione, è proprio necessario che lei sia sull'onda, sulla cresta del cambiamento e che si impari a cavalcare quell'onda, e quindi lei dice apri la bocca e parla. Molto spesso ci zittiamo e ci chiudiamo e andiamo nelle nostre teste pensando cosa devo dire, qual è la parola giusta, cosa. Invece è veramente necessario ogni tanto sentire i propri piedi piantati, aprire la bocca e parlare.
Nice. Nice, yeah. It's funny, I've heard the word code often, and in the last 3 days actually. The code of allowance is a telecall that Gary Douglas was doing, and what you're talking about, we changed the codes. Is that what they call it in your?
Yeah, the code of like your vernacular. And I think the code they mean with that of like how I actually like communicate to you, because communication can be thought of as a code.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's like you and I understand each other because we speak English right now, on the surface anyway.
Well, not only there, with the energetically also, the Dane is calling it modulating. You know what I mean? So it's also the tone. Go ahead, Chiara, if you want to.
Sì, è interessante, dice Cass, come ho sentito spesso la parola codice in questi ultimi 3 giorni. Ad esempio Gary Douglas sta facendo il code della allowance, questa telecall, e tu hai parlato di come si cambiano i codici, come comunico te, e in un certo senso, dice Lorraine, la comunicazione è veramente un codice. Ad esempio ci capiamo perché parliamo entrambi inglese, e cos'altro c'è sotto, e Dane parla di modulare l'energia anche a livello di tono e quant'altro per entrare in...
And really, here it is. If I'm talking like this and you know that somebody says, wait a minute, I didn't catch that. You're like, okay. So what I'm saying is, and it's really like shifting gears, and it's not slowing down for a level of intelligence. It's actually shifting to get in. What is the code? Like a safe. What is the code? Like you said before, that is going to allow them to hear, click, what it is I have to, and receive what it is I'm saying.
Yeah, and then the little light bulb goes off, Yeah.
And it lightens up. The energy lightens up the space. When you get that code, you know that your message is being received because there's a clear channel that's going on.
And for me, that is like communication. That's also like brilliant facilitation. If you're willing to look into someone else's world and give them what they require in that way, which a lot of people don't do. We don't do that in communication. I'm going to say it like I want to. Fuck you. Get it if you can. It's very different when you're like, oh, let me take a second and be kind enough to look into the other person's world. What can they receive?
Yeah.
And how can I give that in a way that creates ease and more possibilities for all of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then space, right? Then it lights. Yeah.
Wow, è interessante. Scusate. È interessante come Cass racconta molto spesso, magari stai parlando, una persona ti dice aspetta non ho capito, e tu inizi veramente a cambiare marcia, e non per rallentare per un diverso livello di intelligenza, quanto per accedere a quel codice che permetterà a questa persona di riceverci. Ottieni questo codice e in quel modo si apre un canale chiaro di comunicazione. E Lorraine racconta come molte volte comunicare e facilitare siano molto parallele, vadano molto insieme. Quando si facilita si è disposti a guardare nel mondo degli altri e non solo dire che cosa mi viene da dire e basta. Avere anche questa gentilezza di chiedere che cosa creerà più facilità e più possibilità per creare insieme.
Yeah, and it is gentilezza, kindness. You said that kindness, Lauren, the word kindness, and anyway, compliments for your translation, Chiara, because it's also a code, you know, and you could use different words, but what you're actually doing is translating the code. Also, that we're saying, you said a kindness. It's a kindness. Oh, here we go. Not only to the other person, because a lot of times people talk at you, right? And they don't care if you receive. They want you to receive, but they're not willing to modulate, to change the code so that you do receive. So, and I get maybe that's a kindness to yourself also, isn't it?
Huge.
Wow. Interessante, dice Cass, scusa. Si parlava di gentilezza e mi ha ringraziato per la traduzione dicendo che in questo caso lightness che anche in questo caso, che anche traducendo stiamo traducendo un codice, parlando della gentilezza. Molto spesso non solo si tratta di gentilezza nei confronti delle altre persone, che spesso le persone parlano, vogliono che tu riceva, ma non sono disposti a cambiare o modulare il tono di modo che tu riceva, e si tratta proprio anche di una gentilezza nei confronti di te stesso. Questo accedere a che cosa possono sentire per poi comunicare.
And I guess it goes to that kindness to yourself, because you're actually, well, I don't know, I don't even want to qualify it with a because. It is kind on your body when you're received.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a totally different energy, yeah. Yeah. And there's no effort or push. And I think so many of us are used to communicating or being communicated to, talked at, with effort, with push. And how many barriers do you have up and does your body have because of that forceful energy that's been delivered at it constantly? So to me, this is a really space of a kindness that is ease, just ease and relax, where there's much more of this soft receptivity that's possible, where there's not this like hard deliver, hard focus with this need to pull away. You know, it's almost like that broad banding of energy that Dane talks about.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Right, Chiara.
È interessante, parlava della gentilezza, di come sia una gentilezza per te, di quanto è meraviglioso ricevere, senza neanche metterci un perché. E Lorraine diceva come siamo abituati a venire comunicati, quindi a ricevere la comunicazione, che ci comunichino addosso o a comunicare con uno sforzo o con una spinta. E quante volte
subire la comunicazione.
Venire comunicato.
Right?
Not even Italian. Okay.
I got excited. My chair is going back.
Quindi a subire la comunicazione, quanto spesso ci vengano su le barriere, e come la comunicazione sia piuttosto questo spazio di gentilezza dove c'è davvero facilità e rilassamento, ed è possibile quasi, come dice Dane, allargare lo spettro dell'energia, questo concetto quello che ricevo è questo rispetto al focus, laser focus, ma broadcast in italiano non saprei, tipo...
No, it's absolutely perfect. Yeah, and it's as opposed to laser beaming, to spread it out so that you cover more ground. Yeah.
Quindi opposto al focus al laser, ma di spalmare l'energia in modo da coprire uno spazio più ampio.
For me, this at this time in particular on the planet, having access to different ways of communicating and the subtleties of it, it is such a gift, and the work that you're doing, that we're doing, and you have chosen as a profession is really important.
È fantastico come in questo momento temporale sul pianeta questa comunicazione, questo lavoro che tu abbia scelto, che tu hai scelto con la comunicazione sia davvero un dono per il pianeta.
I do it in different ways. I do it with obviously with the body stuff. Thanks, Sandra. Sandra says, love that. And also with in business, I talk a lot about kindness in business, and thank you for this conversation, which the word kindness, it gives me more of a definition for it, because some people do like definitions.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if it's information to go off of, and that's the thing, is we're like, no definitions. It's like, well, if it gives you a piece of information that you could then educate yourself with, that's something very different. The information and that little bit of like working knowledge, I like to think of it as, that's actually super helpful. That it gives you your feet as you're walking through that world, working knowledge of energy, of pragmatics, and really being able to create a life that works for you. It's not airy-fairy out there. There's actually like feet to this work, which is why I love Access Consciousness so much.
Grazie, dice Cass, come io comunico, nella mia comunicazione comunico in modi diversi, ad esempio col corpo, anche nel business parlo della gentilezza del business, e questa parola gentilezza ti devo veramente ringraziare, perché per le persone a cui piace una definizione è qualcosa che mi sembra abbia veramente a che fare con la comunicazione. E Lorraine dice, questo sì, è davvero, magari ti dà un pezzo di informazione col quale lavorare, ti dà le fondamenta molto pragmatiche e non sono castelli in aria, e per questo mi piace molto Access, dal quale avere la tua conoscenza, working knowledge, il tuo sapere lavorativo, cioè il tuo sapere dal quale lavorare, il tuo bagaglio
operativo anche, exactly. Lauren, tell us where to find you, how to find you. I know you work in the hospital, but you also facilitate outside of the hospital. So tell us, and you've got a radio show, and tell us where to find you.
You can find me on my website at laurenpolly.com. It's got all my information up there. So I travel facilitating workshops, I do classes, I do one-to-one sessions. I got a weekly radio show called Beyond Speech, Limitless Communication. And it's really looking at how we engage with ourselves and with life and the world around us to create more. And for me, that's what communication is. It's that engagement that actually creates more possibilities. So you can check that out every week. And my book is coming out in September, so yay! And that's my personal story. It's actually moving beyond mental illness. A lot of my energetic awareness and my capacities with communication were such that I thought I was crazy for most of my life, because the energy never matched what I was told verbally. And so it's really my story of finding my own feet and giving tools along the way to be aware of what you are, find your feet in the world, and actually start utilizing the things that you considered as a disability or may have been diagnosed with, like I was, as a strength to create more possibilities. So that's called Riding the Storm, Unveiling the Gifts Beyond Bipolar Disorder. That will be out in September.
Awesome. Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing that, and I'll be sending out the replay of this lovely conversation. Thank you for the morning chat. And I hope to see you in person someday.
Oh, no, we keep saying that. It's nice to get the video now. I get to see your beautiful body. So.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything for Lauren? There's something in the chat. We've got a few people on the line just to say hello. Maybe you can unsilence them.
Sì.
Sounds lovely. Thank you. We'll connect, Sandra says. Yeah. Carrie and Leslie. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for your loveliness. Thanks for showing up on the planet at this time. And let's see what the whispers of the future hold for us in addition to this lovely chat.
I love the whispers of the future.
LaurenCarley.com. Okay. Thank you, Chiara, for your brilliant translation. You can find Chiara. Tell us where we can find you also, Chiara, because you're great facilitation and multilingual skills also.
Ok, Cass ha chiesto a Lauren dove la possiamo trovare oltre che lavorare in ospedale. Lauren ha raccontato che lei facilita, fa anche delle sessioni, ha un show alla radio settimanale che si chiama Oltre le parole, la comunicazione senza limiti, e come davvero questo per lei sia il come ci impegniamo con noi stessi e con il mondo intorno a noi. Uscirà il suo libro a settembre che parla di andare oltre alla malattia mentale. Lei ha pensato di essere pazza per la maggior parte della sua vita perché percepiva una cosa completamente diversa da quello che veniva detto verbalmente, e questo è il suo percorso di come lei ha trovato le sue fondamenta, i suoi piedi nel mondo e come ha iniziato a riconoscere le sue cosiddette disabilità come dei punti di forza. E vediamo cosa i sussurri del futuro hanno in serbo per noi, dice Cass. Lauren la potete trovare su laurenpolly.com e ha chiesto anche dove potete trovare me. Mi potete trovare a chi.dolza@gmail.com, per adesso è molto facile.
Or on Facebook.
Facebook, sì.
Yeah. Thanks for joining Go Beyond and Andiamo Oltre. We're also on Facebook, The Art of Being Cass, or cassthomas.com, and we've got a couple of other things coming up. April 21st is our next appointment, and thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie, meraviglioso. Ci vediamo.
I know you have to go off to work, so here.
All right. Adios.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Sorry. I thought I would add some Spanish at the end.
Bye.